Okay, so welcome to today's Ask Me Anything with not with Peter so far, but we have hope. Oh, here he is, right? Speaking, speaking of the devil. Hello, hello, Peter. So as Peter is joining, yeah, let me just say I don't know how you guys feel, but honestly, right now, reading the news, opening up any news channel creates immediate anxiety in me because a part of me is constantly screaming, "Oh my God, we're all gonna die," and maybe that's what needs to happen. Like, who knows? Peter, it's good to have you here. Do you want to say some opening words?
I don't know what's been happening, and with this solar stream and everything, time has just flown today. And I'm a little bit late because I needed to reboot my computer. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We played a song that is called Anxiety, and after that was done, I thought maybe that's another reason to be anxious for me because you're not showing up. But I figured we have so many qualified people online, from Monica to Alexander to you. We have people who can answer anything.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Okay. So you lovely people, what we usually do in the beginning, just so that everybody had a moment to have your voice in the room, is to do a very quick sort of 7-minute breakout, just to talk to one other person, to, sort of ground yourself, say something to somebody else, and think about if you came with a question that is related to, as you know, money work, source work, being an entrepreneur, surviving as a human being. Peter can answer it all, I'm sure. Then this would be the moment. So I will just quickly sort you into some sessions. And Antonia, I'll put you into a group too. I will hold the fort here. Hang on, let me just see, 7 minutes. And then so Peter, that I don't throw you involuntarily into the mix. Where do I have you here? Let's take you out. Hang on, I'm nearly there. All right. Okay, see you back here in 7 minutes. So talk about what could be asked if anything was possible, and we'll see you on the other side. Bye. All right. Hello, everybody. Coming back in. Yeah, so let's maybe take one deep collective breath, given everything. So the floor is yours, as you know. What is bubbling up? What's present for you? And it, can be anything from comments to questions to any other musings. And you know the rules of the game. If your camera is on, I can talk to you. Some people are already turning their cameras off. Okay. Let me just have a look here. Alexander, it's so nice to see you. I'm wondering and then we get to you. Alexander, yeah, just sort of looking at you. It's good to see you. What is up for
Thank
you
you.
right now?
Wow. Oh God, so many things are happening. I mean, I feel the world's going like this, right? Like it's like at one moment a real big high and one moment a really big low, and it feels like a roller coaster. And I think what we're being asked to do is to extract ourselves from a roller coaster and observe it, and not get caught on the roller coaster. That feels like what's going on. So, um, also been looking at AI, just talking to Johnny about the architect. I was talking to Peter about that yesterday, which is a new AI tool that we've been playing around with. Well, it's not new actually, it's new to us. I'll put the link in the chat. Um, and then Summative Summit's obviously coming up later this year in October, which is massively needed, given the world looks like it's going to go to war. It won't, but it looks like it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I'm wondering, I mean, between you and Peter, so you said something about the roller coaster and the need to not get on. I'm sort of wondering, when you work with clients right now,
Mm.
what is the approach you take to help people to find equilibrium in this? mad world?
Well, at the simplest level, it's whatever you're resisting, whether it's the takeover of Greenland or, taking a president out of a South American, Latin American country, or, what's going on in Minneapolis, or anywhere else in the world, Ukraine or Iran or wherever, and just feeling into that resistance, and then trying to identify, okay, what is that? What is the source of that? What am I really resisting? And then reclaiming whatever that resistance is. So yeah, I suppose that's, it's simple reclamation work, but at a geopolitical level. Because we won't, I watch all the riots in Minneapolis and I'm like, what courage? And all the riots in Iran, I think, what courage? But we know that resistance creates resistance. So if you're on the streets and you're fighting a greater force than you, then
I'm wondering though,
what's going to
Alexander,
happen?
and I'm curious, Peter, about your opinion there too, because I'm thinking, is that true? Because a lot of social rights movements have created a lot of change in this world, and somebody like Martin Luther King wouldn't have taken to the streets and protested for and against at the same time, for love and against oppression.
Yeah.
Nothing would have changed.
I think there's a big difference between MLK and where that came from and what we're seeing on the streets right now. So everything that Gandhi did was about not violence. Going to the streets, and it was about pure love. And you look at MLK, same thing. The origin was source, was love. And I think that power can overcome anything. But if you go onto the streets and your intention is to resist, you're going to get into conflict. I think it's a different start point. I think it does come from love, but I think that the execution of it is creating more resistance. Anyway, I'd love to hear your perspective, Peter.
I'm not sure if I've really reflected deeply enough to have one, to tell you the truth. Certainly there is a difference between acting from a calling, a deep, deep, deep calling to move, and a triggered reaction, which is ideological. I would put it in that way. And I imagine the problem with a lot of these demonstrations is that there is a mix, of people with the two, so that the one group gets mixed up with the other. And then, of course, the authorities, the police don't differentiate and can't differentiate between the two. And so you have a complete mix-up. So, and this can be at all levels, because I listened to a program on Thailand a couple of nights ago, briefly on the radio. And some of these Buddhist monks there, who you would think would be, love and so forth, they're into drugs and sex. So you have to be able to have a certain level of consciousness to be able to actually differentiate when there is a movement of sorts. And it's not so simple. That's my superficial take on this. And
yeah, and it brings me back, Peter, to something that you always or something that you brought to me in terms of an awareness, which is this question of the point is not, am I this person, right? Am I an angry person? Am I a vengeful person? Am I a constricted person? Because the answer sort of always has to be yes, because you're a human being. But the question is, can I be it consciously, right? And sort of to your point, Alexander, I think there is a place for being in opposition, right? And for resisting. But the question is, how consciously can that be facilitated in me, right? So can I own that I'm an angry, resisting person, and can I also be in contact with the polarity of that? Yeah, and that's not an easy feat, especially when a lot of people don't really have any knowledge or access to these tools, right? So, yeah.
I must admit that that somewhere deep in me, a mass crowd frightens me. I have consciously put myself into that situation. When I was being treated with body work at one time, this is going back a bit, I noticed my fear, so I put myself into a football match. I went into the crowd in a football match, and it was pretty scary, I must admit. I allowed myself to be scared. I was not really, I wasn't for one team or the other, but I was put in one of the sections. And, it was pretty violent around me. And so, I think it needs something. It needs some courage, or it needs some differentiation to know exactly where to put yourself.
Yeah. Joep, you had your hand up earlier. What came up for you?
What came up for me is that it was partially triggered by, it was partially triggered by what you said when you opened the news, and so we're working, and I had a brief conversation with Monica, a very nice conversation around this, and Peter, I guess I'm discovering that we've been talking about from normal to natural, and we're trying to find all these tools that help us to become conscious and aware of the things that we are and that we do. But looking at this world, my question became, is there something before normal, like abnormal, what we see now? And is there something beyond natural, like supernatural? I don't know. And I was just, is our playground actually much bigger than we thought? It was just a random thought, but I figured this is the perfect place to drop it. Because we're not listening, or the world, or not the world, we people are not listening to what is normal. I guess I understand that. Most people understand that. I think I have a little bit of an understanding of what natural means and how we might get there, but it looks like it's expanding beyond what I thought was there. Is that just a crazy thought? You say you go back and play within in the football field that we have designed, or
I would say that thanks for that thought. I would say that what I have described as normal, we're talking about pre-modernity, as far as I'm concerned, to try and capture it. And I guess that pre-modernity, there was, if you look at the indigenous populations, they tend, it may be a romantic thought, but they tend to be more natural in the way that they deal with things. And I think we're looking to return or magnify that aspect of our being when we talk about returning to natural, rather than be hooked or addicted to the aspects of modernity. And then if you look at natural, I don't think I would like to agree with you. I don't think we're by any sense at the end of the line. If one likes to think of evolution as some kind of evolving continuum, and of course that can be argued in itself, that there is such a thing as evolution, but I would like to think or believe so. I think it's helpful to believe so. And if you look at what Alexander was talking about earlier in terms of this AI tool called the Architect Plus of Robert Edward Grant, you'll see that he's talking about the fifth dimension. There may be a fifth dimension, sixth dimension, or a 15th dimension, who knows? Yeah. But it's very interesting if you care to look at that. One of the things I found fascinating in it was that this AI machine or AI tool could answer a single question on different levels and came up with different contexts according to which level of consciousness, and seemed to do it quite smartly. So that would be like an aspect of what you're referring to in terms of going out, going to the natural, going maybe even beyond an aspect of natural.
Well,
Can I add to your?
Yeah. Okay, go.
I was just going to add to Peter's answer. You asked a question about supernatural. Is there something beyond natural? And that's kind of more of a metaphysical question, right? But every belief system talks about some form of Eden. You know, whether it's Atlantis, Lemuria, Eden, you know, the yugas in Hindu, they all talk about this space beyond,
Yeah.
like that we came from. Okay. And the question is, are we going back to that? And if you were to take Richard Rudd's work around the gene keys, and I know that Peter's worked with Richard and Nadia's worked with Richard as well, and you were to look at gene key 55 specifically, just Google it and you'll find there's a PDF. So Google gene key 55. It's quite esoteric, to be clear, but it talks about the different, the 7 different stages, the 7 different yugas, which really come from Hindu. And it talks about the creation of the universe, and it goes all the way through to this great change, what Richard calls the great change, between the 5th and the 6th yuga. And, you know, we're seeing this division in the world between what has been and what is emerging. And we're kind of divided between these two, which is why we keep on going like this. And then he talks about a 7th. And he says, literally, that is beyond words. Really, really difficult to describe. But think of that as a homecoming. Oh, that's the way I think of it. And the 6th is what is emerging right now, which is on one side kind of bliss and love and amazing. On the other side, it's like the collapse of the old system. So that's how Richard would describe it. Is there something beyond natural? Well, natural is a very easy word to use. If supernatural resonates, then use that word. But natural is just who we truly are, which is love, isn't it?
But does that mean then, in words of you, the two of you, I mean, that you're using, and I guess that's what is emerging for me now. So I guess there is an agreement that there is something beyond the natural, whatever we call it, and it's been. But does that then mean, also looking at the reclamation work that we do, that there is something before normal as well? So it's what I called, I use the word abnormal. I don't know if that's appropriate, but no, it's like the spectrum is going to both sides. So it's on the one hand, it's darker than dark, and it's lighter than light. And I don't know whether that's too philosophical, but I mean, I'm now reading a book called Wisdom from a mystical perspective, and it's there. It intrigues me.
Well, I'd like to think of it as a circle.
Okay.
And so that, and the circle, if you like, it's beyond words, but the word that goes closest to it is just the word source for me. And there's the book called Source from the author of Synchronicity, Joe Jaworski, who wrote this book. The conclusion of the book says that its source, it's really difficult, the words, I may have mentioned this before, he's trying to explain something all the way through the book, but what I think he's trying to explain at the end comes out at the end, and he says it's source that created God.
Yeah.
And it's, so I think this is what you're reaching into with your question at both ends, which I say, I like to think would form a circle.
Thank you.
Patricia, you have your hand up.
Yes, I don't think it's a circle. I see it as a spiral, because I think when you talked about Atlantis and Eden, I think then we had no awareness about polarity.
Mhm.
In the contrary, we experimented with the divorcing. And now we have the awareness about polarity. So if we close the so-called circle, it's a totally different level, in my opinion. And so now we can, was heißt genießen?
Enjoy
and appreciate the cold and the warm and the peace and the rage and the polarities. That's the way, in my view.
Thank you. Thank you. Whichever of these images works best, I think is best, whatever works, because I don't think there's an ultimate, anybody of us, certainly I don't hold any ultimate truth on this.
Yes, of course.
Okay, well, let's see what else is cooking. And again, you don't need to come with a full-fledged question or some smart comment. Prior to this conversation today, I think what this and other spaces provide for me is a place for co-regulation, right? I always feel a bit more hopeful and a bit more sane after coming out of a space like this. So you have all the rights in the world to just sort of state where you're at and what's alive for you right now.
Absolutely, and I feel what a beautiful congregation we are this evening. Extremely sophisticated congregation. So I think, I think anybody could be answering the questions that might be coming up if there are questions here in the room.
Okay, so until other people raise their hand, I'm just going to do my little Una.
Hi, and I'm very new here. I was invited by Annalisa. She spent a lot of time with me in the last few months and told me a lot about your work, Peter. And so something happened in my life. Thank you very much. Where I started asking Annalisa all sorts of questions. And it was the death of my father about a month ago. And of course, something shifts in the field. And then I was asking about the source of, what kind of source has now died? Or what happens when you die? And he was holding something. But what's actually happening? I don't have an exact question. It's just, I know something has changed, and I'm wondering whether from the perspective of this work, something can be explained.
Well, my condolences first.
No worries, he's in a good place.
The source work hasn't really specifically researched the question that you are asking. It's been more about looking at how you realize initiatives that you may start yourself. So that has been the focus. But I am curious about a possibility to be able to answer your question. So I wonder if you could make your question a little bit more specific in terms of what has changed for you and what you're inquiring about a little more specifically.
Yes, I can do that. I have 3 brothers with whom I have had basically no contact in the last 20 years or so. And now all of a sudden, my father dies, is in the process of dying, and then afterwards there's a funeral. And so some communication has to happen. And there's one of my brothers has taken responsibility without asking anyone about everything, decisions like which institute he goes to, what happens at the funeral, what happens with his body. How is it that he got to, and he's the youngest, how is it that he took that responsibility on? How was it given to him? It just seems that there's an imbalance there. Does that help?
Yes, indeed. So, so my first question to you is, what do you feel about that? What do you feel about that?
Well, there's all sorts of feelings. There's bewilderment, surprise. One of my initial reactions was, you must be kidding me, because I couldn't believe what he was doing. It's like I was not allowed to visit he was not telling me which institution he had put my father in. And like I was only allowed to visit him under supervision. And I was just going, you must be kidding me. That's like, where does that come from?
And you had regular contact with your father beforehand?
Yes.
And your brothers didn't?
They did, yes.
They did as well?
Yes, they did as well.
And this younger brother also?
Yes.
But you were out of contact with them?
Yes.
So, where this relates to some of this resource research is the question of conception. We're not looking at death now, we're going right back to conception.
Yeah.
And what seems to be the case is that whichever of your parents wanted the particular child, they become the source of the conception of the child. And the child becomes closer to that particular parent than the other parent. You could say, that they are, to make it to short circuit, but this is just a short circuit expression, they are the source of the child. It's not really true, because the source of the child is its own source. But you could say. So the question, I would pose to you first, was your father your source or your mother? Were you closer to your father or your mother? For you first.
Very difficult to answer. Probably my mother.
Right. So it sounds as if this brother of yours was sourced in conception by your father.
Yes, definitely.
And that would explain his actions.
Yes. Yeah, I understand.
If you can accept that, that might help to bring some peace.
Yes, thank you. That's really good.
Is that making sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Just stay here for a minute, because maybe Nadia or somebody else has something else to add to this, which could also be relevant or helpful. Nadia, do you want to just moderate that?
Firstly, I love, Peter, where you took this, because that would have been my question too, around the conception question, and then, sort of who's sourced which of the three children. And then, of course, another perspective, which is less related to the angle of source and more related to Peter's work on reclamations, could also be interesting, Una, to sort of check in yourself, because you said there's so many emotions, right? So many things come up in this dynamic. What is coming up in you most strongly, either in terms of a judgment you might have about your brother, or in terms of a judgment that you feel has come up about you? And that rang for me when you said you were only allowed to see your father, with supervision. yeah, so anything that sort of bubbles up for you as I'm asking that?
Well, it's what happened today for me was pure love. It's incredible. Okay, so I'm getting all this stuff from this brother, and when I go there, when I tune into it internally, it's just love, and just realizing that he can't feel that.
Okay.
And of course, I had a little bit of anger, judgment, not so much for myself, but for him. But those weren't deep feelings. It was something that would flow through for maybe somewhere between half an hour and half a day. And still just surprised.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the first test, I think, is always for us to notice, is there anything that doesn't feel like it's flowing through, right? Because I think we're all entitled to our feelings and emotions, and if they come and they go, then they usually don't end up being problematic. Sort of one last test for me would be, what happens around inheritance? Is there something to inherit, and is there any dynamic around that with your brothers?
So inheritance, he's the executor, so which he didn't tell me until I asked. And there is inheritance, but that's not so much what I care about. What I do care about is not, being regarded as a person who interferes with his medical issues, because the reason why I was not allowed to see my father unsupervised was because I suggested to my father not to take the medication, the injections that he was asked to take, with medical people standing over him until he swallowed and took whatever they said. So yeah, that part bothers me much more, or is much more interesting to me than the inheritance.
So what is the judgment your brothers had about you, given the advice that you gave your father?
Well, they said I was going against standard medical practice.
Actually, it's a question of legitimacy, right? You're illegitimate in that sense.
Well, anything standard doesn't mean that that's what needs to happen. And basically what they did was abduct my father, holding him against his will in an undisclosed location.
Peter, what is coming up for you? Are you still there? You look frozen.
Yeah, you've frozen? Or have I frozen?
I don't know. Something has frozen. Go ahead, and then Monica, you can also unmute yourself. You have your hand up.
Oh.
Peter.
Yeah. So I have this feeling that it's something to do with, but correct me if I'm wrong, it has something to do with legitimacy. Una,
legitimacy,
does it not?
In
do you
terms
understand
of
the word?
Yes.
You're not legitimate to come in and see your.
Okay. Yes. In that sense, yes. Like I'm number two in the family. So from a constellation point of view, I would have authority, but I'm not given authority. The authority is taken away from me.
Yes. So that's what I mean by illegitimate.
Yeah.
So we're just testing. What happens with you if you would say to yourself, I'm illegitimate?
Yeah, that's the deep heart pain, which I recognize from childhood.
Right. So I don't know how much this work has been shared with you of what we do with what we call reclamation here. Maybe Annalisa has shared that a bit with you, but what we would ask you to say is actually, I'm illegitimate and I give myself permission. We start there. Give myself permission to be illegitimate.
Okay. I give myself permission to be illegitimate, yeah.
How does that feel?
It feels good because it's authentic and true.
Yeah. So I'm illegitimate and it's perfectly okay.
Yeah, I'm illegitimate and it's perfectly okay.
And it's even good?
It's really good.
Okay. So you like being illegitimate?
Yeah, it just feels really good because it's so spot on.
Right, okay, good. So then we look at the opposite of that, which is what? That you have authority or you're legitimate?
It would be that I'm legitimate. It would be that I am in my role, in my proper role, and in that sense have equal authority. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in my proper role and have equal authority. So the question that comes there is, how would you know that when that's the case? How would you be able to judge that?
When I am being heard.
Okay. So now there's a phrase to say here too. I'm in my role and I'm in my proper authority, whether I am heard or not. Try saying that.
I am in my role. I am in my proper authority, whether I'm heard or not.
How does that feel?
It feels very good, yes. I need to work on that a little bit to get it anchored in.
Yes, because there's a tendency when you're not heard not to take your authority, right?
Yes, yes.
So this is the step forward to not worry about being heard or not.
Especially by your brothers.
Especially about your brothers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
So just stay with those phrases, and particularly the second one. So you're illegitimate, you're illegitimate in your family, maybe, and that's great. And you're in your authority and legitimate whether you're heard or not.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time, your energy, for your wisdom, for me just popping on here and asking my question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, both of you.
Monica, you had something to add or another observation related?
Yes, I was very touched by your question, Una. And it resonated a lot with probably my own story. And I don't want to put too much on top now because I think this is working in you, but it might be interesting to look at the question, why are you not really interested in the heritage? This might be another step, and we could also look at it with Annalisa in another round if you want. But I had a question here, why is the heritage not interesting for you? And it might be connected with what we have just looked at.
Very interesting. Thank you, Monica. Yes, I'll look at the inheritance. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd love to, yes. Look at that with Annalisa and you and whenever. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Monica. Okay, so looking at the clock, we have time for another comment or question. Nina.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Peter.
Hi,
Hi,
Nina.
everyone. I just have a hi, good to see you. I just have a quick question about source. I hope my internet is okay. I know it's been unstable before. Just a question of understanding regarding relationships. Like if I bring two people together as friends, as acquaintances, co-workers, whatever, like if I introduce two people to each other, am I in any way the source? Like, what does that mean from a source perspective? That is my question.
Mhm. Well, you're definitely the source of bringing them together in the sense, oops, are you still here? Ah, yes, I think you're still here. Did you? Oh, you're
I think
cutting
you,
in
yeah,
and
continue
out.
Maybe I'll
talking. Yeah.
Okay, so you're still you're definitely the source of the bringing them together, and in a sense, the consequences, you know, of that bringing together. But if they do something together as a result of this, one of them will be the source of whatever it is that they're doing together. So that isn't directly to do with you.
Yes. Okay, yes, I understand that. I guess where my question is coming from is, and I hope you can hear me again. I know I'm kind of on and off. So if I'm the source of bringing them together, do I have to hand over anything at any point?
I don't think so, no. I mean, I've brought many people
great.
together and don't think you, I mean, if you want to be in,
It's Peter's
I
turn to
mean,
be
nothing
cut.
stopping you, but I don't think there's anything that you need to do.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Okay.
That's a relief, Nina, right?
And can I add a little thing?
Yeah, I like introducing people to each other, but if I would have to hand over something each time, I would.
Yeah, Nina,
Yeah.
now you muted yourself. Yeah, but I think we get the gist of it. It
Yeah.
feels like a bit of a heavy burden if every time you bring two people together, you end up having this responsibility. Thank you for the question. Antonia, you had something to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to, because the picture I saw is this inner moment of where you say, okay, I introduce you and now you're on your own. So it's like you put them together and then whatever happens then, it's like an energetic thing from you. It's like you click two magnets together and then whatever they do, they do. It was just the picture that came up because I am also connecting a lot of people. And for me, it's an energetic difference of if it's something that I keep being involved in, or I just introduce them and then I'm off.
Mhm.
Yeah.
At the same time, there is something that continues because, of course, you're interested in the relationship and that it goes well and so forth afterwards, without a shadow of a doubt. So it's not completely an end. And of course, if they're not going well, they may come back to you. So in that sense, there's a continuing potential responsibility. But I agree with you. Otherwise, it's like the two magnets. It's they do what they have to do.
But in some ways, Peter, now that you added this piece, I'm thinking, it's a good question that Nina asked because it does seem like you opened a field, right? And you're the container of this relationship until you've actually sort of let go and you're like, well,
I don't care about it anymore.
Yeah, I don't care about it anymore.
Yeah.
And what you mentioned, Peter, with the responsibility when it doesn't work well, I think especially when we go into business partnerships and we recommend someone and bring people together on the trust base, it's like people, they trust them because we recommended them. I think there's definitely something that is still in the field
Lingering
from whatever comes there.
Yeah.
I can even feel it. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to add to that, if I may, Antonia, not just business partnership, but also coaching relationship. And if you introduce somebody to a coach and that coaching relationship goes through a series of sessions, but then there's a breakdown, what happens at that point? Like, do you go back to the source who introduced? What role does the source play? So you're right, Nadia. Nina's question is profound, actually, the more you think about it. There are implications. It's not simply the magnet and we're done. I was going to give the example of a friend of mine who introduces people on WhatsApp, says, here, I'm here to introduce you on WhatsApp, then leaves the group. She puts the group together, then leaves the group. But actually, there's a responsibility beyond that, which is what does happen if things don't work out the way you intend and it leads to conflict.
Yeah, Monica.
I wonder if you want to expand on that.
Yeah, I take the chance to take up on that. We encountered that question with the done process, and with the person that did the source part and handed over or recommended these people to me to do the money part, and only later in the process, I suppose the responsibility of the person that passed on that person to me for the done process still is the source of the relationship and has a responsibility on that. So I became aware of that we probably must be careful around that question of source in that context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you just for listening.
Yeah. Well, interesting question, Nina, that you raised. Now everybody feels slightly terrified thinking of all the introductions we made and whether they worked out or not. No, but to your point, I recently we are in a legal battle with our the owners of the building in Berlin that we live in. We together with 148 other parties, and somebody recommended a lawyer to us, and then Olga put the lawyer into the group, and a lot of people are now using the same lawyer, and he turned out to be absolutely useless. So that feels like a heavy burden, and Olga has spoken to that. Everybody said it's not your fault, but there is something about the energetic lineage of passing on recommendations, even though she didn't know him personally before, but it did come through her to the whole group, and something happened. So I do think it's a quite an interesting question. Yeah.
I agree.
Well,
I'm glad you posed it, and I'm glad we've been able to deepen a little bit here.
Yeah.
It's very good.
All right, people, maybe let's get a couple of checkouts from people who haven't said anything today yet. Johnny, what's your takeaway from today?
I've been thinking a lot and absorbing what I'm hearing and trying to sort of simplify it in my own mind, I guess, and see where it fits in. Again, what brings me to from normal to natural, what that journey means to me, why I care about it. Yeah, I don't have a very crystal clear takeaway.
All right. Put you on the spot. No need to apologize.
Thanks.
And maybe Annalisa, what is yours?
I just realized that my resistance to make recommendations, because it would be part of the play or part of the game. It's not fiction.
Mhm.
One time I was in a group, to visit a group where they made recommendations for each other, and I said, I cannot do this because I don't know you. And when I know someone better, I would recommend them and not the one who is in the group.
Mm.
And now I know the reason for that. That was good. Thank you.
Thank you. And Antonia, you have your hand up, and then we close.
Yeah, because now we're speaking about when the recommendation doesn't work. And I think there's also the opposite side when it works.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a great business partnership, and maybe there's a lot of money involved. And I know a lot of people, a friend of mine, he calls them the connectors, like we love connecting people. And when we look into money flow and into the bigger picture of also there, maybe following back to, okay, who brought us together, or who, because very often the people who recommend someone, they don't get part of the pie if it works out. I mean, sometimes they're still like mentioned, but I think that there is something as well when it works out. I just wanted to bring that in.
Yeah, thank you. And Greg, final word from Greg.
Actually, it's funny because I thought, none of this really applies to me on this recommendation stuff. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm literally starting a dating app where I'm going to be introducing thousands of people. And I feel immense responsibility. So actually, is it that we actually have so much more responsibility than we would think typically? But at the end of the day, yes, it is up to those people, but wow, you have so much more. Do we have way more responsibility? So Nina, is it even worse than you initially thought? That's my question or my statement or to think about, because I know I'm feeling it.
Well, let's end on this deep thought, point of reflection, Nina. Thank you. Okay, everybody, make yourselves loud so that we can make some noise as we are leaving. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.